right, continuing on with my vocal video series, which I skipped last week, um, partially because I was busy, partially because this is such a big section, which I don't know what I think about the kind of just the organizational things of this chapter. It's just like we've just been dumped with a ton of exercises, which are all they've been kind of useful and interesting exercises or interesting information, but it's just like it's all crammed together in this one humongous chapter. But that said, let's go into it. This is a section on preparing your own speeches. Talking about how people are oftentimes really freaked out by giving speeches. So here's some suggestions about to many variety of speeches or presentations, and how to do stuff. Starting off with the point of speak first, don't write the speech first. That will actually help with a lot of self-editing. It'll just shorten your process. Those who write a speech out word for word are going to sound stilted. You want the natural cadence. And yeah, there's just that whole thing of like, until you start saying something out, you have no idea exactly how long it takes to say things. And you start being a lot more ruthless of like, oh, I don't need to say this. I don't need to say that. So that's a really good thing. And indeed, I've done reviews where I've done very kind of loose, light review, and then gone back and go, oh, okay, I don't need to talk about this, talk about that, talk about this, and then made a tighter, not much more, but tighter essay thing. So yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Next one is first structure the speech according to your own thoughts. Think of the model of a well-constructed speech in a play. You open up a story or debate, or you gradually reveal an idea. You then explore the box you've opened. The box may have many other boxes in it, each one revealing a richer item. You then come to conclusion. The most common pattern is to have a beginning and a middle and an end, plus a climax. Try to make and articulate a fully completed journey. So yeah, try and think of like, we're going to start here, we're going to go develop that, and then we're going to finish here. I also kind of like the idea of opening up boxes, like, oh, which is like, oh, that to me is like, oh, I have 3 things that I want to talk about with a book. And then it's like, okay, each one of those things, divvy up and think about what is the particular points in each one of those things, is a good idea. Which goes well with the next thing. You may need to make notes as a reminder of the journey, signposts along the way, but do it on manageable pieces of paper. I find if I have a big long sheet of paper, I just get lost and I'm like, oh God, where am I? And suddenly I'm focusing on a piece of paper. I'm not that. So the idea of making notes and trying to get those notes shorter and shorter and just being reminders versus a crutch where you start reading off of your notes. It's like, no, it's just oh yeah, I need to do that. That's what's the next point? Oh yeah, I want to talk about dog heads next. That's how to go. Oh, that was a terrible essay of mine. Next point, ask yourself clear and tough questions as you prepare, and make sure you answer the question thoroughly and clearly. What do I want to say? There's no point in speaking unless you've thought this question through. What do I want to achieve? Are you introducing someone, selling an idea, provoking, persuading, amusing, enlightening? Who am I addressing? A very important but often forgotten question. This is where someone makes a terribly risque joke in front of like school kids, or makes super hip references in front of a really older audience, or talks down to an audience that already knows all this stuff, or talks way above the heads of some audience that doesn't know all the minutia about the life of Milton or something like that. So know the level of your audience and sympathize with them. Be in their place before you endeavor to place them on your level. So think about what you might be leaving out of a speech. Think of the things you could leave out of a speech you don't need to leave out. And just generally think about your audience. That was the last part. But the first part of what do you want to say in a review, for me, in a review or in a video, is an important thing that I oftentimes I either lose sight of or I only discover halfway through doing the speech, which is a sure sign that I haven't actually, this is still an intermediary spot in the thing. So yeah, what am I trying to say in a video for me? Next one, take your speech to the audience. Share with them. Don't hide behind a lecture or hunch over prepared text. Look up and out frequently, structuring the speech in such a way that significant pauses will allow both you and your audience to take in what you are saying. So for me, that's eye contact with the camera and trying to get more comfortable with taking a pause and thinking about something, or making a point and then just sort of letting that pause for a second. It's hard not having an audience here to do that. I can just, like, I'm talking to myself and I know that already, so I just keep on going by. But it's like, okay, this is the main point that I'm trying to get across in this video. Give it some breathing room. That will make it stand out for people watching the video. Next one, which hits very close to home. Be concise as possible. Avoid useless phrases, cliches, or nonverbal noises. You know, etc. Remember that silence is more powerful than grunts or useless language. You need not fill up every bit of space. Avoid repetition of words and phrases unless you can use the repetition for dramatic effect. Directness is more effective than rambling. Unless you can get back easily on the path of the journey, your reason for speaking is in the first place, avoid lengthy digressions, leaving an audience wanting more rather than boring them with too much, which could be I think is a really good theme for a lot of my videos. I do go off on tangents. I do use ums and ahs. I don't leave space for pauses. I probably repeat words. So this is one that I definitely can see, and just making videos that are far too long for what could be. I could make a much shorter video concisely if I worked on it harder. Sometimes I just don't want to work on it harder, but just thinking about that is, how can you make a very concise, making one concise point is probably worth 10 points all jammed in that may not necessarily have to do with your ultimate goal in a video. Next point is, believe in what you are saying and commit yourself to the need to pass on a message. Any audience will forgive mistakes, hesitation, lapses, or mispronunciations if the speaker is committed, which I think I can tell in videos where I've been really enthusiastic about what I've been talking about. I've gotten a good response despite all of my many failings in speaking. So that is, commit yourself to the need to make the speech. I somehow have this need to make videos. Commit myself to that, definitely. And when I don't feel it, maybe those are the videos I can just I can put aside, which is sort of how I was feeling with my like, comment, subscribe review. I think in the end of the day, I just didn't have a need to communicate anything with that review. Next point, there are certain ingredients in speech making that are always appealing: personal experience, comparisons, facts, timing, revelations, the promise that the speech will arrive somewhere. Above all, good, precise content benefits the audience most. Never go beyond an acceptable time limit. Remind yourself that boredom has a threshold. Shorter is better, which I think that comes back down to me thinking again and again, I should at least put a 10-minute limit on all of my review videos if I can. Work towards that. It's like, it's fine if I do a practice video where I go 20 minutes long, but then go through that video and think, what doesn't work, what is irrelevant, what is repetition, do all those cuts, and then give the speech again and see if you can't get it under at least 10 minutes. That would be, that I think would be a really good thing. And I mean, the good thing with the video is maybe if I can't even do that during the speech, is to go back and edit it more down later. Think about what parts I could just cut out. And I'm not talking about ums and ahs here. Try to just not do ums and ahs. Next point, Use language that both you and your audience comprehend. Many speakers make the mistake of trying to use words or codes that they don't properly own. They sound false and frigid. They try to use words or tell stories they have heard other speakers use effectively, but you must always feel at ease with your own material and not clumsily imitate someone else's style. Which I can see that is something I think for the most part I'm trying to go for a conversational natural style in how I speak. I can see where I'm sort of struggling trying to express something that there's a thing of like trying to get the words right to express something, but then there's also trying to put on some mumbo jumbo to kind of gloss over the fact that maybe you don't understand something, which is like it's much better just to say, and I don't get this part. So yeah. Next, make eye contact. I know that's difficult for many people, but I cannot emphasize how powerful this is. It humanizes you and brings the audience to you. Conspire with the audience. Eye contact also makes it much harder for members of the audience to avoid you and not to listen. And it's much more engaging, even especially on camera, to be looking into the lens and directing your words there, kind of get your force through there. It will hopefully make you more of an engaging speaker, more of a connection versus somebody who's always over here looking at their notes or just can't make eye contact. That's why I've got a little board across the viewfinder so I don't look myself in the eyes, looking in the eyes of theoretical audience as I speak. That's what I'm going for. Practice the speech out loud. Practice it in the conditions that you will eventually give it, which for me is in this room looking at the camera. That's where I'll do all my practicing. I'm not planning on doing it in front of an audience anytime soon at all. Yeah, and just make sure you've got all your shit organized before you do give the speech. Know what you're going to wear. It's always going to be basically what I'm wearing right here. Yes, speak for the audience, not for yourself. Embrace them with what you have to say, which is an interesting thing to think about. It's it's not you, it's them. It's who you're talking to that you can think about that ideal audience. For me, because all audiences are imaginary, think about that ideal audience and what you're going to hopefully try and bring to them. And it's not about you. You are the vessel for your message. Yeah, yeah. I kind of like that, Patsy. I do. And then practice. Over the years, I've devised a simple equation for speaking in public. You need 3 stages of practice and work. 1, technical body, voice, speech work, presence work. Be aware that a 20-minute speech requires enormous amounts of energy, audibility, clarity, range, and presence. You cannot succeed if you don't work aloud and fully. And yeah, boy, that's something that I have definitely learned from, one thing I have at least learned from years of making these videos is it takes a lot of effort to make these videos. It takes a certain amount, not a lot, it makes a certain amount of effort to make these videos, to talk out loud for sustained periods of time. And I've had periods where I've done like multiple videos in a day and it's like I've felt completely drained at the end of it. Part of doing vocal work is hopefully built up those muscles that way, loosens me up at the start of a day for that. Yeah, definitely. And number 2 is the great content and structure. Just get some great content and structure, but that's something that you need to work on. I just continually working on my organizing my thoughts, marshaling arguments, coming up with what's the point? Why am I doing this? I love apparently speaking, but why? And if I can better figure out the point of the video, I think that greatly focuses it, and I'm not casting around. And that's something to think about. Like I'm going to do a review of Colette at the moment, Secrets of the Flesh by Judith Thurman, A Life of Colette, and I think I have to get clear to myself. I'm not it's not about the information in the book that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the way that Judith Thurman approaches her subject and brings her subject to life, and yeah, really conjures a complex, interesting woman through her work, through her use of sources, of interviews, of all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. So trying to work on what's the point of the thing. And three, humanize the content, stories, images. Research clearly tells us that we remember these things more than data and statistics. So I guess I'm delivering a speech on Colette. I am this straight white English speaking dude talking about this great French writer from a previous century. So previous centuries, she kind of overlaps over, and it's like, what's my connection? How can I personalize this video so that nobody else could have made this video? Yeah, and then lastly, we'd rather have someone speaking passionately, authentically, and from themselves than look at slides on a screen or look at a book. So that is the meat. That is the meat of Patsy Rudenberg's thing, and I think it's something where I might actually just put this into note form and just give myself a worksheet to use on working on Colette, the Secrets of the Flesh with Colette, and try and use that to make a review, not a long review, like a short talk, like 5 to 10 minutes long talk on Secrets of the Flesh by Judith Thurman. And yeah, use that. You try and make a short, concise little review, which will probably take me a lot longer than if I just turned on the camera and started babbling. And I mean, it might start off with me just turning on the camera and babbling and babbling and babbling, and then going back and going, okay, well, what are the things in there that really stick out? That's so I can indulge my rambly nature, but then I can use that I can cut out the 5 or 10 minutes. Let's be realistic, 10 minutes that I'll be pushing up against to talk about the book. All right. I'm going to stop there. There are definitely exercises on structuring a speech, which it involves getting a sentence on a piece of paper, and the sentence must in some way open up a topic of debate. It should pose something. So I'm going to think about where I could get a sentence that would open up a topic of debate. Maybe it would be a sentence from Secrets of the Flesh. Maybe it would be a sentence from somewhere else or that I've seen, and use that to kind of practice doing a little practice speech for next week's vocal video, which will probably put us into December the 1st. Wow. All right. I've been Jay. I've been down on this book, but boy, chapter 5 is really full of stuff, to the point where it's just like, why didn't we just cut out the rest of the book? We have an amazing little pamphlet for people to use. All right. I've been Jay. More videos later.